Told ya. Max versus Dustin. Now, I gotta tell you, I didn't mean to tell you. So, I got a whole story behind this that I haven't been able to tell you guys. I worked with Poirier 2 weeks ago in Miami. And Poirier gets a text when we're together and says, hey, what are you giving Chael information? I said, that was a secret that you and Max are fighting? I said, Dustin, I've known about that for the longest time. I mean, the night that Max got done with Ilia Topuria, Max went to the post-fight press conference and called for a third fight with Dustin. I was sitting with Dustin. We were in Bristol, Connecticut, and Dustin responded and said, yeah. So I thought we had a fight. And so I've been telling everybody. And then somewhere along the way, I got the information that it was going to New Orleans. And the big question is, would the BMF title be up? And the likely answer be no. However, not a guarantee. And the fact that we now have this information, so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Dustin just got off the Pat McAfee show, and Dustin went on and announced that he will be fighting Max in New Orleans. And it wasn't just the UFC getting on board with this, it was also New Orleans. New Orleans came to the table with a pile of money to get this event to New Orleans, right? And I just think that's very respectful. Generally, I wouldn't mention something like that, but I think that's very respectful to Poirier. And I think the way that the organization is treating Poirier, look, nobody gets to go out on top. And if you're good enough to, if you're Robbie Lawler and you're George St. Pierre or you're Lennox Lewis or you're Khabib, and you can pull out one of those moments, but nobody is going to have a promoter help them go out on top. And I just want to bring to you, not only is this in New Orleans, which is awesome, that's got to be like a childhood dream of Dustin Poirier. They then put him in there with Max. And Max is a pain in the ass for everybody, but not for nothing. They have done this fight twice. Once at this very weight class. And it was not competitive. That's just the truth. Off the top of my head, 4 rounds to 1. But it might have been 5 rounds to 0, and it just wasn't competitive for whatever was amongst those two guys, and it was purely boxing, but Dustin went right through him. So, to follow the rule of a guy that when he's going out has to pass the torch and doesn't go out on top, that rule is being broken to give him an opponent who we know he can beat. We know he can beat him because we've seen it not once but twice. Now, I want to leave it at that because I don't want to say anything that sounds like I'm putting Max down. Max is a freaking hammer. Max is the champion. They're fighting for a championship. Max is the one bringing the belt. Like, I do not question Max. I'm just sharing with you there are certain match-ups. This appears to be one of them. And when you're talking about the level of respect being shown to Dustin, the fact that they are putting up a BMF title, that would allow Dustin to end BMF as we know it. I mean, it would allow Dustin to take that belt and retire it. Now, we will adhere to whatever rules we make up as we go. We could bring that belt back. It's how Max got a hold of it in the first place. George Masvidal retired it. So that would be fun too. I don't feel that the BMF has ever been shown the respect that it should. I don't feel that the organization of UFC understands the respect that the locker room gives to BMF. I do feel that's a miss by the UFC. Not only is it a miss right now by the UFC, but I feel like in the future that BMF will be even more coveted just because of its rarity. No difference than why an Olympic gold medal is more coveted than the world title. Once is every 12 months and once is every 48. So we'll see where all of that goes. And I don't want to say goodbye to the BMF belt, but the idea that the UFC would create a situation where somebody could retire with a belt is extremely uncommon, to the point that I can only think of one time they did that, which was George St. Pierre versus Michael Bisping. And the night they booked that, I don't think that they had all the information. I don't think that they knew George for sure was not coming back. Now, before you correct anything that I set down or speculated on there, all my points still prove that Dustin Poirier is being shown a major respect by the organization, and that's pretty cool. That's all I'm speaking about. And that is pretty cool. So, what's Max going to do? Put Max in a very, very interesting position. And I do wish that we would have a little bit of clarity. I really do. As much as I enjoy the fact that I coined the phrase, and as much as I enjoy the fact that you guys quote the phrase, we will fiercely adhere to the rules we make up on the spot. As much as I do, there are times that I wish that we did have clarity. I don't know how you become a #1 contender. Neither do you. I don't know what calls for an interim championship, or what even calls for the potential of an interim championship. I do know you cannot have an interim champion in the presence of an undisputed champion, but we do. I do know that you cannot defend an interim championship in the presence of an undisputed champion. I do know laws in 36 of the 50 states that oversee the sport that will back up what I just said. Not just that you can't do it through policy or through PR explanation. You cannot do it. At any rate, we got both. And I do wish that I could share with you what it would take to qualify for a BMF title fight, or at what times a BMF champion fights and the BMF title is on the line. I wish I could explain those things to you. And I think it's important that I be able to explain those things to you. I cannot prove the validity to an Olympic championship. I cannot prove it to a Super Bowl championship. I cannot prove it to any championship unless we have rules and criteria to start with, and then a lineage to back them up. You got to have both. You have to have time. I mean, you can ask any investor out there, and they'll all tell you, we really don't know why gold has value, other than it's got 100 years of people trading it for more tomorrow than they paid today. And I would like some clarity on the BMF, just so that I can explain and tell the story. So we have the BMF champion. He's going to fight. It's a big question if the belt's going to go up. It turns out it is. But don't tell me it like it's obvious, because the same BMF champion just fought and didn't put his belt up. As a matter of fact, he lost, but he retained the belt. That's weird. But it's where we're at. And if Poirier is able to grab it and move on, I would certainly hope that we don't retire the belt. That belt is very coveted. And it's very sought after by some guys that have worked very hard and sacrificed very hard to try to have a level of recognition or something that they can be proud of when they're done. So regardless of how Dustin and Max goes, I will campaign now that the BMF live on. And if Dustin were to win it, it would create a great opportunity to move the belt. We could have it at 205. We could have it at heavyweight. We could slide it over to the women's division, which I'm saying just to sound nice, that mere idea is actually quite laughable right now. But we could, and every statement's true if you include the word could,